Hello, welcome to Tea with the Druid 34. 20 minutes or so where we spend time together exploring questions that are important for us and taking some time to meditate together as well. It's lovely to see you here. Welcome if you're new to this experience, and welcome as well if you're a returning visitor. And it's lovely to see you already, people coming. Ellie and John and Renee, hello. It's great to see you. And gradually we're gathering in these few minutes. So pull up a chair and gather around, and we'll begin in a second. And it's lovely to see Nottingham, Skegness, the Netherlands. Fantastic. So I hope you had a good weekend. For many of us here in the UK, it was a bit of a relief to have some rain, a tremendous relief, in fact. And you could feel the garden drinking in the water and the trees just really appreciating it. So that we had a break from the last 6 or 8 weeks of intense sunshine to have some well-needed rain. And Stephanie and I went and had a lovely weekend with friends in Wales. And because we all like nattering so much, it didn't matter because we could just talk for 2 days nonstop. And one of these friends was Juliet Grayson, who's written a fantastic book that I just finished reading called Landscapes of the Heart, the working world of a sex and relationship therapist. And she's just written a wonderful book that for any of us in relationship, I think it's really helpful and interesting. For professionals, for psychotherapists, it's interesting too, because she does a very interesting thing. She gives case histories, but she gives a kind of director's cut commentary and shares with us what she's thinking as she makes interventions and so on. And so what I did is I made a recording with her, which I'll share with you. I'll put it up on my website. We had an hour-long conversation about relationships and about her work, and I'll pop it up over the next few days so you can hear it. And there's one particular idea that she talks about in the book that I'd like to explore more with you this evening. Imagine now that you've gathered in the sacred grove. We have this wonderful idea in Druidry of the clearing in the forest. And if we're lucky, it's a real clearing we're in the forest, or it's in our garden, or perhaps it's in our imaginations or in our inner worlds, a special place of sanctuary and peace where we can gather. And when we come together as a group, it's always very interesting to just imagine, we can imagine, if you like, try doing this now. Imagine that you're standing up, you're sitting here in the clearing, having arrived, and you're now standing up, and you can see around you all the other people who've come from Hof in Germany and from Brittany and from Canada. I'm just reading the names of people I can see here, from Windsor and so on. And they're all in a circle around you. You're standing here, and first of all, you just sense yourself standing upright, embodied, yourself, being yourself, because there's nothing else you need to be. You're unique, you're one, you're whole, you're one person, the whole person. Now imagine that you just close your eyes for a second and you reach your hands out to either side of you. And you take somebody's hand in the group to your left, you take somebody's hand in your group to the right, in the right, so that now we're making a whole circle with our hands held. This is how we begin Druid ceremonies. And maybe you can feel it in this virtual setting, but certainly if you're doing it physically, there's this very interesting experience that most of us have, that we feel part of something greater. Just the act of holding hands, we feel a part of the group. We feel a kind of group consciousness or awareness. We feel another kind of oneness. So now just tune into that sense of oneness. You feel part of the group, the tribe, if you like, ancient, primal feeling, really, of oneness. And then slowly you let go of the hands either side of you, and you quietly drop them down, and you feel yourself centered in your body, and you open your eyes. Now, what we did in this fantastically simple exercise is that we explored a sense of feeling one and unique and individual, and feeling merged with the group as well. And it is possible to feel both at the same time. Even though they are competing drives, apparently opposite feelings. How can I feel contained and one, and also feel connected and open? It's a mystery, but you can. Or maybe you modulate between the two. Maybe you can't in your case, but you can feel connected with the group, and then you can concentrate and you can feel yourself as an individual, and then you can feel connected with the group. But either way, two things are going on, and that's fantastically profound, I think. And it's profound. Let's explore it in the way that, let's come into this. We'll finish with a meditation on this, but let's begin by exploring where Juliet explores it in terms of relationship counseling. So she talks about how we all have the need, the drive to fusion, what she calls fusion. Let me fuse with you. You know, that feeling of being with your beloved, or when you're attracted to somebody or you fall in love, you want to melt in their arms. You want to fuse. The two becomes one, if you like. And that's a strong urge. But at the same time, there's another urge inside of us, which is the apparent complete opposite, which is the urge for separation, for differentiation, individuation, whatever you want to term it, individualization, where you want to be a separate being. You say, no, 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 please, I don't want to fuse with you. I'm my own person. I want to kind of disentangle myself, cut the umbilical cord. I want to be a separate person. I want to grow up and be myself. Now, each of us probably has our own tendency to be more tipping towards one more than the other. Think about yourself. Would you say, if you had to say it, would you say that you're more inclined to want to fuse with people, with life, I mean, it may not even be people, it may be animals or, you know, nature, but that you want to fuse particularly with people? Or actually, maybe that's even a bit scary for you, and actually you're much more interested in differentiating, separating out, making clear your boundaries. Just, if you feel like sharing it, do share, but it's quite, in a way, it's quite an intimate detail about one's psyche, so don't feel you have to share. If you want to share, please do. That'd be great. Because, of course, we all have these competing drives within us, and at different times of our life, you know, and of course it mirrors precisely the journey of the child. You know, the infant in the womb is fused. I can see some answers coming in, a bit of both actually, fused, more fused, etc. So we'll each have our own things. Now, as a baby, we'll be fused with the mother, but then we need to separate out and gradually learn to differentiate. Adolescence, another great burst towards differentiation and so on. And given the fact that they're so apparently opposite in drives, it's like one's going one way and the other's going the other way, like that. It's not surprising we can get confused and conflicted around it. And often in relationships, what can happen is a part of us is trying to get closer and a part of us is backing away. And we all know those people, and it could be us, you know, who find it really hard to commit. There might be, you know, at heart, you could say, a fear of being smothered. You know, when you meet a really needy person, you can sometimes have that reaction of, whoops, that person's really needy. It's at one level, what we're responding to is a fear that they're just going to smother us. They're going to say, please, please, please get closer and closer and closer, and they're going to smother us. But what's the opposite feeling if you're on the other side of the fence, as it were? It's the feeling, oh, don't abandon me. Please hold me close, because if you differentiate, if you separate, I'm going to be abandoned. I'm going to be abandoned. So these two, and so part of our task as developing human beings and in the process of personal growth, etc., is to harmonize and balance our need for both of those things, because of course we need what Juliet calls bonded connection. We need close, we need intimacy, we need emotional connection, a sense of emotional connection, but we also need to be our own people. So a lot of very interesting material there, an interesting idea to explore in one's own life, in one's relationship with one's parents, one's childhood, with one's partner or one's partners through time and so on. A lot of material to look at. And it got me thinking as well, and this is where we're going to move now from the psychological to the spiritual or mystical, if you like, or magical. I thought this is interesting because the urge for fusion is essentially the mystic urge. What does the mystic want to do? They want to merge with God, with Goddess. The mystical urge to attain fusion with Deity, you want to be lost in the beloved. There are all sorts of ways we talk about it. You know, the Sufis in their poetry speak about it beautifully, you know, by depicting Deity as the beloved. You can, and of course there we see this fascinating way in which the psychological and the spiritual are, of course, on the same, that we're talking about the same thing, because relationship is relationship, whether it's with Deity or with your partner. So in Sufi poetry, there's all this talk about fusing and merging and blending with the beloved. So that's, I think it's fair to say that the mystic is responding to the dynamic or the drive within us for fusion. Its shadow side, its pathology, its challenge, if you like, is in it not being regressive. For us to ask ourselves, is my desire to retire from the world? Is my desire to seek only God? Is my desire to merge only with the Goddess an urge that is really because of my fear of engagement with the world and because I want to be back in the womb? You know, interesting things to ask oneself. So if that's the mystic, if that's the drive that's operating in the mystic, what's the drive that's operating in the magician? Well, what I'd suggest to you is that the magician is someone who, or it's a part of oneself, because I think what we're doing by talking about this is we're looking at different aspects of the spiritual self, the soul, the spiritual seeker within us. You could call it subpersonalities, you could call it aspects, doesn't matter. So one aspect of our spiritual self or spiritual seeker within is seeking union with Deity. Another aspect, I believe, and I would call the magician, is seeking differentiation, is captivated by the beauty of the world, wants to engage with the world, senses that they are here for a reason. It's meaningful. It's not all about just getting away from this. It's about engaging fully and being in relationship with life and with the world of form. And the magical task, or the task of the magician, is to engage consciously, spiritually, magically, with awareness, to be a force for good in the world. And these are the acts of magic that I think are interesting and worthwhile. Is how can I be a magical force in the world that brings love, light, peace, happiness, joy, inspiration, lots of good stuff to other people and the world. And again, what would the pathology of that be? What would be the shadow side of it? Well, when it becomes a fear of merging, a fear of going inside to the source and dropping one's attachment to the world of form. So instead, one becomes compulsively obsessed with doing things in the world. And that either just becomes, the burnout of constantly being a do-gooder in the world, trying to effect change and not being able to resource oneself inside. Or in the worst case, it becomes the attempt to exert control over other people. And then we get into, dark magic, if you like, of trying to exert control in that sort of way. So for me, the way I understand this is I can look at my personal relationships and my relationship with Stephanie and all relationships as I can try to become more aware of the drive within me to fuse, to dissolve boundaries, and also the drive within me to separate and detach and differentiate. And I need both in proper proportion and in the right place at the right time and so on. And to be able to sort of dance and move fluidly between the two. And maybe, the ideal is to be able to experience both in due measure at the same time. So that when I close my eyes and hold hands with everybody in a ritual circle, I'm feeling both fused or at one or merging with everybody in group consciousness. At the same time, I'm feeling completely individual and unique and myself at the same time. So I'd love to hear what you think about this. And the great thing about this medium is, even though I've got the microphone, as it were, you've got the pen, and the pen is mightier than the sword, and you can write anything you like down here, and you don't have to do it right away. So you can write in half an hour, you can write it tomorrow, you can write it next week, and it's recorded forever right there. And and I do read all these things, and I can't comment to everybody because there's just too many. So please don't feel offended if I don't comment, but I will comment if I can. But other people will be able to read it. So you're sharing your thoughts, and I'd love to hear how you feel. But let's, for this moment, let's ground our experience with just a very, very brief meditation, where just for a moment we let go of these thoughts and just become aware of being in the sacred grove. And again, if you're new to this tea session, you don't have to do this. You can just watch it and see how you feel and maybe replay it, do it afterwards if you like it, or you can go straight into it now. And basically what it involves is just allowing yourself to just come to rest and closing your eyes probably to better concentrate on yourself. And to sense yourself being in the sacred grove, being in a clearing in the forest with a group of people who've come from far and wide to gather in a circle together. And you become aware of the earth beneath you. And you just allow your tensions just to drop away into the earth. And just as you breathe out, just all your tensions drop away into the earth. And you feel the strength and the healing power of the earth. And all that life in the earth, all those creatures in the earth and the stones and minerals in the earth, bringing their life and their energy to you too. And you sense the trees around you, and you feel their peace and their power, and you feel their roots deep in the earth, their trunks rising up, their branches and leaves high above you. And you breathe in the scent of the trees, breathing in those essential oils that the tree is excreting, that's going right into your body, breathing it in, breathing in the peace, the protection, the power of the trees. And then you become aware of the sky. And you breathe in the energy of the sky. And it brings in vitality and health. And the energy of the sky meets the energy of the earth within the center of your being. And as you just focus on breathing in and breathing out, you just allow yourself to feel at one with the earth and the sky and the trees around you. No separation. Just breathing in and breathing out. Just allowing yourself to feel at one with all beings, with all life. And you bask in this sense of oneness and this feeling of openness and joy. And knowing that you can come back to this place and this feeling at any time to spend as long as you like, just being open, feeling at one with all of life, all of being. You come back to an awareness now of being seated in the sacred grove. Your inner eyes and your outer eyes are closed, but you can sense yourself being seated in the forest. And you allow your inner eyes, the eyes of the soul or the imagination, to gently open as you look up into the leaves. And you see the bright green of the leaves. You see every leaf sparkling. There's dew on the leaves. The sunlight is catching the dew. And you see all these leaves. It's as if somehow you can see every single leaf. Your eyes calmly moving from one branch to another, soaking in the detail, reveling in the beauty and the difference of everything, the different shades of green. And as your eyes move to the trunks of the trees, the different shades of brown, the different kinds of bark. As you move your eyes down, you see the roots going into the earth. And you see grass on the ground. You see little flowers, different colors and bushes. And you see paths leading away in the forest. Such beauty, such difference, such exquisite detail all around you. And knowing too that you can explore this detail whenever you wish, simply by returning in meditation to this place. You allow yourself to close your inner eyes, to become aware of yourself seated in the grove, your group of fellow meditators around you in the circle. And you gradually allow your awareness of this group and this inner grove to fade as you become aware of being seated in front of your laptop or your computer, your phone or your tablet, feeling fully present here and now. You stretch your fingers and toes, and when you feel ready, you open your eyes. Feeling fully present here and now. And maybe just type something into the field so I know you're there. I haven't sent you off into the forest and you haven't come back, so I know you've come back. I can see a little heart bubbling up through the image. Alain Giroux says, wow. Jörg Timmel says, nice cup. Lovely. Lovely. So that's felt a lot of good souls tonight, says Gio Butler. Feels good, doesn't it? I don't feel alone here. You know, at one level of reality, I'm sitting on my own in a little room in Sussex, but I don't feel alone. I feel like I'm with you. And Madeline Zimmerman says, hey, I really didn't want to come back here. Pascal says, would have loved staying in the forest. I know, I have to tell you, so you can sympathize with the terribly difficult job I have to do, is I absolutely want to stay forever in these meditations. I want to really go deep and be with you for a long time. And it's the most enormous effort that I suggest that we all come back. So great to see you back. And what I'd like to do now, so we're going to finish now. I'd love to hear your comments. So if you need to go, because I know I'm a little over those 20 minutes that I promised, but I'm just going to ask you something now. So if you want to stay on and you've got time, stay on for this little bit. But otherwise, we have finished. So by all means, scoot off if you have to go. I've developed an online course in working with the ideas in the book that I wrote called Lessons in Magic. And it's seven lessons, and I've made some films, and I've put together a little online course because I'm very aware that book I wrote is incredibly condensed. I deliberately wrote it in the most condensed way possible. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to beta test it. You know, the internet gives us this fantastic opportunity to do this. I did that with the sleep course that I organized, where I asked people if they were having difficulty with sleeping, if they could beta test it. And it was hugely helpful. So I want to make a small group of about 20 people who are willing to beta test this and give me their feedback. And so it's clear what the invitation is. What I would do is, in about a week or two, or possibly 3, I would invite you to go online and spend about an hour a week, 7 or 8 weeks. So just about an hour a week to do, to watch a lesson. There's some audio in it. There's some little films in it. There's some text in it to read. And if you commit to doing it, what I'd like you to do is to do that. And then there's a comments box at the bottom, and for you to fill in your comments. Did it work for you or not? Any ideas and feedback and so on. And this would stay up so that when other people did it, they would see your comments. It becomes a community thing, and it's not just me holding forth, but it becomes a group effort, which is great, I think. The idea being that you would do this course, and it would take about 7 or 8 weeks. So that would take us, say, through August and September. But at the end of September, I'd have lots of interesting comments that would fill out the course nicely and would be helpful to people who took it. And hopefully you would give feedback on the course that I could quote, saying so-and-so liked it and so on, like that. So only offer to do this if this is what you want to do. If you think you can manage about an hour or so once a week for about 8 weeks. And also, if the topic interests you, what it is it's exploring a very specific kind of magic. It's what I would call the magic of making. It's one particular kind of magic. So I start off talking about what is magic and so on, the difference between mysticism and magic, and then home in on a very specific one, which is working with goals for your life. So it'll be very familiar to those of you who are familiar with the sort of pop psychology of goal setting, but it comes at it from a magical viewpoint. And not everybody wants to work on their goals. You may be of an age or in a period in your life where that's not where you're at. You're not seeking to achieve specific objectives. You're actually seeking to enter perhaps a more mystical phase in your life, in which case this course wouldn't be for you. But if it sounds interesting, and if it sounds like you would like to do that, if you'd like to drop an email to PA, P for Peter, A for Apple, at druidry.org, DRUIDRY. I think I can do a comment myself. PA at druidry.org. There, which is where Maria will get your email and just say, happy to volunteer, or just you don't have to go into great detail. You can just say yes, would love to do the course or something like that. If I only want a small group because it would get cumbersome if there are too many of us. So again, don't be offended if you're not in the group. I'll just select a group of 20 people and off we go. There. So thank you for listening. It's been great to be with you. And I'll put up the blog post which gives a little more detail on this, what I've talked about. And then in the next few days, watch out for the interview with Juliet, where I talked to her about her really interesting book, Landscapes of the Heart. Okay, God bless you, Goddess bless you, loads of love, and see you next Monday. Okay, bye.